Hi everyone, Andrew Carruthers here, Education Director for Sam Villa. The other day at my salon, Lunatic Fringe in Salt Lake City, I had a guest sitting in my chair that was dealing with a very common challenge. And my heart kind of went out to her because she was so frustrated with it. So we felt like it was an important thing to address in one of our videos. What happens after a woman has a child is a few months later, they go through a shedding process. And it's a very common thing to have happen, but it's an incredibly scary thing to have happen. And so I always try and set my clients up for that process. I let them know that after their baby, a couple months later, they could have a lot of hair loss, significant hair loss. Those areas that usually tend to have that hair loss are along the front hairline, especially in the temple and recession areas, and even along the part line, a lot of times we see a lot of new growth. So we thought it would be beneficial to talk about how do you get people through that really challenging period of growing that hair back in. First things first, make sure you assure your guest that it's a very, very natural thing to have happen to them, and we do see people have really good recovery as far as the growth patterns and the fullness of their hair. So the area that very often becomes challenging is this front hairline, because a lot of material tends to come away from the front hairline, and again, especially the recession area. When it first starts to come back in, it can be very short and want to stick out even. So below drying the fringe area is really, really important. One of the things that we want to do is we want to teach them actually how to use a comb to control hair. Because it's such fine little hairs, using a brush is not going to have enough control. The fine teeth of the comb, along with using kind of the backbone of the comb to create tension, is going to be the best thing for them. They need to get to those hairs while they're still soaking wet. As soon as they're partially dry, they're going to just pop out and there's nothing they can do about it. So teach them how to come in, and let's say they have a side part, utilizing the comb to directionally blow dry, meaning blow dry the hairs in the direction we want them to lay, with the fine teeth of the comb and with the bridge of the comb controlling the hair behind it. You'd be surprised how much control you can actually get over those little hairs. The next step is after it starts to grow in, where it starts to come down the forehead, I like to talk to them about the idea of actually incorporating more of a fringe into the haircut. You know, maybe they're wearing more of a sweepy type of a fringe like this right now. You know, if you have 30, 40 strong hairs that are right above the eyebrow, why not go to more of a fringe that highlights those hairs? Get them involved in the shape of the haircut. And a lot of times they're like, oh, I don't know if I could wear a fringe that short. And just put it to them like this. Well, you have hairs that are already that short. They have to go through a grow out process. There's nothing different we can do about it except try to hide them. So why don't we bring this into something that's complementary to the haircut and is less work for you? You might be surprised. They might get into the idea, and you might have a guest that gets a really cool new fringe. The other area that we're really going to see a challenge with, especially as those hairs get longer, is along the part line. Now, you're going to have these little hairs sticking up all along the part, and especially if they have a coarser hair texture, they're going to have a really hard time getting those to lay down. So here's a few tips on how to help them with that. We're going to use the Control Addict 28 from Redken because it has a really strong hold, but it doesn't have a lacquery finish to it. It has a really nice finish. What's really important whenever you're using a hairspray to try and control those hairs is to make sure that you're directing the spray in the direction you actually want the hairs to go. A good friend of mine, Geneva Cowan, who's our artistic director, she gave me a really good tip on that one time because I was trying to get some flyaways to go down and I was spraying this way, up. Now, if I use a hairspray and I spray upward into flyaways, what's going to make that flyaway do? Go up. So we want them to lay down. So teach your guest that they have to bring the hairspray up high and work the spray across the top of the head and in the direction that they want those hairs to go. Once they come across and spray in the direction they want to go, you can use a hand, you can use a soft brush, or you can use the teeth of the comb, but the teeth of the comb are faced away from the part, not towards the hair. So we use the teeth of the comb to just gently lay those hairs down. The only challenge with using a hairspray is if they're the kind of person that likes to work their hair a lot, A hairspray might not hold as long as they want and keep those hairs down. So the other option here is to actually go to a product like Movability 05. Now, why do short hairs stick up? The reason short hairs stick up is because they're not heavy enough to lay down. So if we use a product that has just a little bit more weight to it, like Movability, emulsify it into our palms, and then don't touch the actual hair, only touch the flyaways and let just a little amount of that product get onto the flyaway hairs. Now those hairs have enough weight to them to fall down and to stay down. And that sometimes is a better solution for our guests that like to put their hands through their hair a lot, because that product's going to stay on the hair. And if they look at themselves in the mirror a little later in the afternoon and they've re-sprouted, they're going to be able to lay them back down. So again, friends, this is a really common thing that you're going to run into in the salon. And so we hope that these couple little tips will help you out. And remember, the best thing you can do for them is be a great support system. Let them know that it's a really natural thing to happen and that you're going to be there to support them through the process. Thanks for watching, friends. If you have any other questions or comments, please leave them in the box below. Or maybe you have a great tip on how to handle this particular challenge. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. I'm Andrew Carruthers, Education Director for Sam Villa.